Ever wondered what someone is really thinking? Carl Jung shows that with just 3 simple questions, you can uncover the truth hidden behind anyone's smile. Have you ever wondered if you could truly know what someone is thinking, feeling, or hiding behind that casual smile? Maybe you've caught yourself in a conversation wondering if the person is sincere. Or perhaps you've left a room feeling confused, trying to interpret every glance, every word, and every subtle gesture. It's a question that has fascinated humans for centuries. How can we understand each other more deeply, beyond what is spoken? Carl Jung, one of the most insightful psychologists of the 20th century, suggested that this ability to read others is not a supernatural gift, nor a mystical trick. It is an art, a skill that anyone can develop if they understand the mind and the unconscious layers that drive human behavior. Most of what we believe about others is filtered through our own lens, shaped by memories, emotions, and personal experiences. When someone smiles, we don't just see their smile. We see what that smile reminds us of, consciously or unconsciously. When someone ignores us, we immediately interpret it as rejection or disdain, even though the reality may be entirely different. This is why Jung emphasized that much of our perception of others is projection, an unconscious reflection of our own inner thoughts, fears, and unresolved feelings. Yet, if we approach observation with intention and care, we can begin to see beyond these distortions. There are simple, practical ways to look past the mask people wear, the social persona, the confident exterior, the behaviors shaped by fear or habit, and glimpse the true motives hidden beneath. It is not about controlling someone, manipulating them, or uncovering secrets for selfish gain. It is about understanding their fears, understanding their anger, understanding the choices they make that may at first seem confusing, irrational, or even frustrating. Through this understanding, we cultivate empathy and compassion, not just for others, but for ourselves, because in every reflection we observe, there is always a mirror of our own mind. Jung believed that by observing others carefully, through the right questions, we could not only uncover the unconscious motives of those around us, but also awaken insights within our own hearts. These questions act as a guide, a tool, and a key to unlocking not just the behavior of others, but the mysteries of our own thoughts, reactions, and inner struggles. And today, you are going to learn exactly how to use them to see what most people miss. Most of what we think we understand about others is actually just a reflection of our own unconscious mind. Every time we feel confused, frustrated, or amazed by someone else's behavior, it's often our own inner world speaking back to us. Think about a time when someone reacted in a way that felt completely unfair or unexpected. Perhaps a friend snapped at you, or a coworker dismissed your idea. In that moment, it's natural to blame them, to assume they are unreasonable or difficult. But Jung taught us that the mind works like a mirror. When we encounter strong reactions in others, we are often seeing a reflection of unresolved thoughts, fears, or experiences within ourselves. This doesn't mean the other person isn't real, or that their feelings don't exist, but rather that our perception of them is colored by what we carry inside. Every glance, every word, every subtle gesture is filtered through our own memories, expectations, and emotional patterns. Two people can witness the exact same event and walk away with entirely different interpretations because each is unconsciously projecting their own inner experiences onto what they see. This is why truly understanding others begins with understanding ourselves. By becoming aware of our own unconscious patterns, we start to recognize when we are reacting to someone else and when we are reacting to the echoes of our own past. It is not always easy. The mind has a way of hiding these reflections, of convincing us that the problem lies entirely outside of us. But by asking the right questions, observing carefully, and pausing before judgment, we can begin to separate what belongs to them from what belongs to us. This awareness is the first step toward empathy, clarity, and insight. It is also the foundation of the 3 questions that will guide you through reading the human mind. Questions that do not rely on guesswork or manipulation, but on careful observation and deep awareness. These questions allow you to see the unconscious motives behind behavior, and in doing so, they reveal not only the person in front of you, but also the hidden corners of your own mind where fear, desire, and judgment quietly reside. The more you practice this awareness, the more natural it becomes to understand, not just interpret, the people around you. And the more you begin to understand the threads of your own mind that connect to theirs. The first question you will ever ask to truly understand someone is deceptively simple. What does this person fear losing? At first, it seems almost too obvious, almost too easy. But in truth, it is one of the most powerful tools you can use to see beneath the surface of behavior. Fear is the language of the unconscious. It shapes the way people act, speak, and even think, often without them realizing it. Consider someone who is constantly seeking attention, always talking, sharing achievements, trying to impress others wherever they go. To the casual observer, they might appear arrogant or self-centered. But when you pause and ask the question, what does this person fear losing? An entirely different picture emerges. Beneath that confident exterior often lies a deep, raw fear. The fear of being ignored, overlooked, or forgotten. It is the fear of invisibility, of being unimportant in a world that values recognition. And this fear, subtle as it is, drives almost every action. The stories they tell, the jokes they make, the way they present themselves. Understanding this transforms judgment into compassion. Suddenly, behavior that once seemed irritating or shallow becomes understandable, even relatable. It is not arrogance, it is survival. It is a person trying to protect a fragile part of themselves that wants to be seen, accepted, and loved. Jung believed that fear is always a guide to the hidden layers of the psyche, the parts of the self that we hide even from ourselves. When we observe others through this lens, we start to notice patterns we never saw before. And in doing so, we also notice our own fears reflected back to us. Perhaps we recognize that our irritation at a boastful coworker stems from our own fear of inadequacy. Or maybe our frustration at someone's controlling behavior mirrors our own fears of losing independence. The question, what do they fear losing, becomes a bridge, connecting empathy for others with self-awareness. It teaches us that no behavior exists in isolation. Every action is motivated by hidden needs, longings, or insecurities. The more you practice asking this question, the more natural it becomes to pause before judgment, to observe carefully, and to respond with understanding. And as you begin to see the fears that drive people, you also begin to reflect on your own, realizing that understanding others is inseparable from understanding yourself. This is the first step in reading minds, not as a trick or power, but as an art of true perception, awareness, and connection. This fear, once recognized, becomes a key to understanding not only others, but ourselves. Every fear a person carries, whether of losing love, respect, freedom, or status, shapes how they behave in ways that are often invisible until you ask the right question. Think about a friend who constantly checks if they are liked, someone who seems unable to relax without reassurance. Their actions may seem excessive or even annoying at times, but underneath lies a universal truth. They fear being rejected, forgotten, or unloved. Fear drives repetition, protection, and sometimes even deception, because the human mind instinctively tries to preserve what it perceives as essential. Carl Jung believed that when you can see fear clearly, you begin to understand the motives that drive behavior beyond logic or surface appearances. It is like turning on a light in a dark room. Suddenly, the hidden corners, the small movements, the choices that once seemed mysterious or puzzling become clear. And the beauty of this question is that it does not just apply to strangers or friends. It reflects your own inner workings as well. When you observe someone acting out of fear, your mind often mirrors back a reflection of your own insecurities. You might feel irritated by someone's constant need for validation, because deep down, you have also feared not being seen or acknowledged. Or you may feel compassion for a person's overreactions because you recognize your own past attempts to protect yourself from being hurt. The act of noticing fear is transformative. It dissolves judgment, replaces irritation with understanding, and allows you to respond with empathy rather than reaction. Jung once emphasized that unconscious motives are not hidden to punish us. They are signals pointing toward awareness, growth, and healing. When we learn to observe fear in others, we also begin to observe the parts of ourselves we often avoid. Every glance, every word, every small behavior becomes a mirror, reflecting the unspoken and unseen forces that shape our shared humanity. The more we pay attention to these reflections, the more we cultivate patience, empathy, and insight. Fear stops being a source of confusion or conflict and becomes a bridge, a doorway into the unconscious mind of another person, and, simultaneously, a path into our own. Understanding fear in this way is the first step toward reading minds in a deeply human, compassionate, and natural way, showing us that the surface is only the beginning, and the unconscious beneath is where truth truly lives. The second question takes us even deeper into understanding the human mind. What makes this person angry? Anger is more than just a reaction. It is a language of the unconscious, a signal pointing toward hidden wounds and unresolved pain. Most of the time, when someone loses their temper, it has little to do with the present situation. Instead, it is often rooted in past experiences, old fears, or moments when they felt powerless, dismissed, or hurt. Think about a coworker who overreacts to criticism, or a friend who becomes defensive at the smallest disagreement. On the surface, their reaction might seem irrational, aggressive, or unfair. But beneath that anger lies a story, a memory, a fear that has not yet been fully acknowledged or healed. Carl Jung believed that anger, like fear, is a guide. It reveals what is vulnerable and unprotected, what the person desperately wants to preserve, or what pain they have not been able to express. By asking, "What makes them angry?" and observing carefully, you start to peel back the layers that create the behavior others often misinterpret. For example, someone who reacts harshly to rejection may be protecting a fragile sense of self-worth, while someone who becomes furious at disobedience may be echoing the strict or critical upbringing they once experienced. Anger is rarely about logic. It is the body and mind signaling a threat to the inner world, a way of defending against emotional exposure. Observing anger in this way does more than explain another person. It also holds a mirror to ourselves. Often, the intensity of someone's anger triggers reactions in us because we recognize a similar wound within our own psyche. When we respond with awareness instead of judgment, anger transforms from a disruptive force into a teacher. It guides us toward understanding, both of others and of the parts of ourselves that remain unhealed or unacknowledged. Practicing this question regularly allows us to see the patterns behind reactions, to identify the root causes, and to respond with calm presence rather than impulsive emotion. Jung's insight reminds us that the more we can observe anger without being consumed by it, the more we cultivate the ability to perceive the unconscious motives driving behavior. Anger is a map to the human soul, revealing where fear, pain, and unresolved emotion reside. And when we learn to read it, we gain a window into both the mind of another person and the depths of our own. Understanding anger in others opens the door to a deeper kind of empathy, one that moves beyond surface impressions and taps into the core of human experience. Anger is rarely about the moment itself. It is the echo of past pain, disappointment, or fear that resurfaces when the present situation triggers it. Imagine someone who loses their temper over a small mistake at work, or a friend who reacts sharply to a joke. On the surface, their behavior may seem excessive or even cruel. But when you ask, what makes them angry? You begin to uncover the story beneath the reaction. Perhaps they were once belittled for small errors, or they have carried the weight of criticism for years, and now any similar situation automatically triggers that unresolved emotion. Carl Jung emphasized that these unconscious reactions are not random. They are highly organized signals from the deeper layers of the psyche. Anger is a language of the unconscious mind, a message that says, here is something unhealed. Here is something that needs attention. When you observe someone's anger with this understanding, you stop seeing a problem to be solved and start seeing a soul that is speaking a language it doesn't fully understand itself. This perspective changes everything. Instead of reacting with irritation, judgment, or fear, you respond with presence, awareness, and calm observation. You may notice subtle cues, the tone of voice, the tightening of the body, the fleeting look in their eyes, that reveal the underlying fear or wound fueling their anger. And as you practice this, you will inevitably see reflections of your own anger and unresolved feelings. Perhaps someone's quick temper irritates you because it mirrors your own suppressed frustrations. Or maybe their impatience highlights a fear of inadequacy that you have hidden from yourself. Observing anger in this way is not about excusing harmful behavior, but about understanding the human mind in its complexity, recognizing that what appears on the surface is often only the tip of an iceberg. Jung taught that when we see the unconscious motives behind anger, we gain insight into both the person we are observing and our own inner world. Anger becomes a window, a guide, a mirror. We begin to read not just the person in front of us, but the threads that connect all human experience: fear, pain, desire, and the longing for acceptance. Through this lens, we learn that mind reading is not a game of guessing thoughts. It is a compassionate practice of observation, understanding, and presence that allows us to connect with the deepest layers of consciousness in ourselves and others. The third question is perhaps the most revealing of all. How does a person treat those who cannot benefit them? This question cuts straight to the heart of character, exposing the truth behind the social mask that everyone wears. Many people are skilled at performing kindness when there is recognition, reward, or admiration at stake. But true character is revealed in the small moments when there is nothing to gain. Think about a person who smiles and compliments you in public, but speaks dismissively to a waiter, janitor, or someone they believe is insignificant. The words they choose, the tone of voice, the patience, or lack of it, toward those who cannot offer anything in return, tells you far more about who they are than any grand gesture ever could. Carl Jung understood that the unconscious is always expressing itself, and often it shows up in the way people interact with those they consider powerless. A person's behavior toward the invisible members of society, the ones they don't need to impress, is a reflection of their inner state. Kindness without expectation is a sign of alignment between the ego and the soul, a state where a person no longer needs validation, status, or recognition to feel complete. It is effortless, natural, and instinctive. In contrast, behavior that is condescending, dismissive, or controlling toward those who cannot offer anything reveals unresolved issues, insecurities, and a fear-driven ego. Observing this is like reading a map of the human psyche, showing where someone's consciousness and unconsciousness intersect. And as with the other questions, this is also a mirror for yourself. How you perceive someone's treatment of others often reflects your own values, insecurities, and ideals. Perhaps you feel irritated by arrogance or selfishness because it touches a part of you that fears being overlooked or dismissed. Or perhaps you feel admiration for selfless acts because it resonates with your own desire to act from a place of integrity and compassion. Jung taught that the most profound insights about others are always intertwined with insights about ourselves. By paying attention to how people act when no one is watching, we see beyond appearances, beyond social masks, and into the realm of the soul. We begin to understand that actions motivated by fear, desire, or ego are visible in everyday behavior, while actions that flow naturally from consciousness reveal maturity, compassion, and self-awareness. Asking this question allows you to read minds not through speculation or intuition, but through observation of authentic behavior, giving you a clear picture of the unconscious motives that drive people's actions, while also reflecting the state of your own consciousness and the values you hold most deeply. Observing how someone treats those who cannot give them anything is more than just a lesson in human behavior. It is a profound way to see the alignment between a person's conscious intentions and their unconscious drives. Many people spend a lifetime perfecting the image they project to the world, being charming in public, appearing moral, kind, or successful. Yet the true test of character happens quietly, when there is no audience and no reward. Jung believed that these small, unnoticed moments reveal the unconscious more clearly than any words, titles, or public actions ever could. Consider someone who goes out of their way to help a stranger, or patiently listens to someone who cannot offer status, money, or influence in return. This is not a calculated act. It is the natural reflection of an integrated psyche, where the soul and ego have begun to merge. On the other hand, when a person treats those they consider powerless with impatience, condescension, or cruelty, it is often the echo of unhealed wounds, insecurities, and fears they carry within themselves. What is remarkable about this observation is that it does not require complex analysis or verbal confession. It is visible in everyday interactions, in gestures as simple as a smile, a tone of voice, or the willingness to pause and acknowledge someone else's humanity. Observing these subtle signals allows you to read the unconscious mind of others without them ever speaking, without guessing, without assuming. And as always, this observation acts as a mirror to your own mind. How you notice, interpret, and emotionally respond to such moments reflects your own values, fears, and desires. If you feel admiration or warmth when someone helps without reward, it may be because you recognize and honor that quality within yourself, even if it is hidden. If you feel irritation or judgment, it might indicate areas of your own ego or unconscious that are still unhealed, areas that fear being exposed, overlooked, or undervalued. This question, how does someone treat those who cannot benefit them, is therefore more than a tool for understanding others. It is an invitation to self-reflection, a chance to measure your own alignment with empathy, integrity, and conscious living. Jung would say that observing these moments quietly and without judgment allows you to see into the true nature of people. to read beyond the mask of social performance and into the very structure of their psyche. By practicing this question, you learn not just to understand others, but to awaken the parts of yourself that aspire to act from consciousness rather than fear, to cultivate authenticity and compassion in every interaction, and to truly see both the world and yourself with clarity. Once you have explored fear, anger, and genuine character, there emerges a deeper principle that Carl Jung emphasized: the mirror principle. This is the realization that when you are observing others, you are not simply reading them. You are reading yourself. Every judgment, irritation, admiration, or fascination you feel towards someone else is a reflection of something within your own unconscious mind. Perhaps you find yourself irritated by arrogance or boastfulness, yet that reaction may reveal a part of you that once had to hide, suppress, or perform in order to be accepted. Maybe you are drawn to acts of courage or kindness because they mirror the qualities you aspire to embody but have not fully integrated. Jung called this projection, the unconscious mechanism that allows the mind to externalize the parts of itself it does not yet recognize or accept. Through projection, the world becomes a mirror, reflecting back not the objective truth of others, but the unknown, unhealed, or unacknowledged facets of your own psyche. This is a profound shift in perspective because it turns every interaction into an opportunity for self-awareness and growth. Instead of blaming others for their behavior, you begin to ask, what part of me is being touched by this? When someone's cruelty triggers anger in you, perhaps it is because that same potential for unkindness resides, at least partially, within yourself. When someone's confidence makes you uneasy, perhaps it is a reminder of the part of yourself that has been conditioned to shrink or stay silent. Through this lens, every encounter becomes a lesson in consciousness. The mirror principle also teaches patience and empathy. When you stop seeing others as adversaries, obstacles, or competitors, you can observe their actions without fear or judgment. You see them as living reflections, offering clues about the patterns, biases, and unresolved emotions within your own mind. This is not about blaming yourself or excusing harmful behavior. It is about using awareness as a tool to understand both sides of the human experience. Jung believed that self-knowledge is the key to understanding others. The more you recognize your own unconscious projections, the more compassion you cultivate, the less reactive and judgmental you become. Reading minds, in this sense, is not about deciphering someone else's thoughts. It is about deepening your self-awareness, learning to recognize the unspoken motives and hidden fears that drive behavior, and using that understanding to interact with the world from a place of calm presence. By practicing the mirror principle, you start to see every person as both teacher and reflection, and every interaction becomes a mirror revealing the unknown layers of your own consciousness. The mirror principle naturally leads us to the fourth and final question, the one most people never think to ask. What does what I see in them reveal about me? This question flips the entire process inward, transforming observation into self-reflection. Everything you notice in others, whether their charm, arrogance, fear, anger, or generosity, is not just a random occurrence. It is a reflection of the parts of yourself that you either recognize or suppress. Carl Jung famously said, "Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes." When you apply this principle, every interaction becomes an opportunity to awaken, to recognize the unconscious layers within yourself that influence your reactions and perceptions. For instance, if someone seems controlling or judgmental, you might feel irritation or even resentment. But the true insight comes from asking, what part of me feels controlled or judged? Often, your reactions reveal unresolved fears, unacknowledged desires, or suppressed traits. Perhaps the person's ambition irritates you because it mirrors the ambitions you were taught to hide. Perhaps their confidence frustrates you because it reflects the courage you have denied yourself. This question, more than any other, transforms the act of reading minds into a practice of inner awareness and self-understanding. When you begin asking it consistently, you start to see the unconscious forces behind your judgments and emotional reactions, and suddenly, the outer world becomes less chaotic, less threatening, and more meaningful. It is as though every person, every reaction, and every situation is offering a message, a lesson, or a reflection of the psyche waiting to be understood. Jung believed that the greatest insights come not from analyzing others, but from understanding yourself through the lens of these reflections. This process requires courage because it forces you to confront the parts of yourself that are uncomfortable, weak, or unhealed. It asks you to stop blaming, stop projecting, and start observing with honesty. And when you do, a remarkable shift occurs. You begin to respond to people with empathy, patience, and awareness instead of reacting with fear, judgment, or defensiveness. Reading minds is no longer about control or prediction. It becomes an art of sensing the unconscious, connecting with the soul, and recognizing the shared human experience. By turning the question inward, you learn that understanding others is inseparable from understanding yourself. Your judgments, admiration, irritation, and fascination are all windows into your own psyche. Every person you meet, every encounter you have, is an opportunity to reflect, integrate, and awaken. The deeper you look, the more you realize that the real journey of mind reading is the journey of self-awareness. And in that awareness lies the freedom to see, understand, and connect authentically with the world. When you fully embrace the fourth question, what does what I see in them reveal about me? You begin to experience a profound transformation in how you relate to the world. Suddenly, interactions that once frustrated or confused you become mirrors of self-discovery. Every emotion you feel, every judgment you make, and every reaction you notice is no longer merely about the person in front of you. It is a reflection of your own inner landscape. Imagine meeting someone who seems arrogant or dismissive. Your first instinct might be to react defensively or to criticize them in your mind. But when you pause and ask, what part of me is being reflected here? You start to recognize your own insecurities, suppressed traits, or fears of inadequacy. Perhaps their confidence triggers envy because it reflects the courage and self-assuredness you wish to express, but have been holding back. Perhaps their dismissive behavior reminds you of times you felt unseen or unheard. Jung emphasized that this inward reflection is the key to psychological growth. The outer world, he taught, is like a canvas projecting the unknown parts of our unconscious mind. By observing it carefully, with curiosity rather than judgment, we gain insight into our own biases, wounds, and unrecognized potential. This approach turns every encounter into a learning opportunity, a chance to integrate the shadow, the parts of ourselves we deny or hide, into conscious awareness. The more you practice this, the less reactive you become to other people's behavior. Conflicts, misunderstandings, and annoyances no longer dominate your emotional state because you understand that what you are witnessing is often a reflection, not a threat. You also develop a new kind of empathy, one that arises not from sympathy or advice, but from deep understanding and presence. When you recognize the unconscious motives in others and see their reflections in yourself, you respond from awareness instead of fear. This is the essence of Jungian observation: to read minds not through speculation or manipulation, but through presence, reflection, and compassion. The outer world becomes a guide for inner growth. Every person you meet, every moment of irritation, admiration, or confusion becomes a tool for self-understanding. In this way, learning to read others is inseparable from learning to read yourself. It is a practice that transforms perception, dissolves judgment, and fosters a quiet, profound connection with the shared human experience. Ultimately, the fourth question completes the journey of observing, understanding, and integrating. It teaches that the true skill in reading minds lies not in knowing others, but in knowing yourself deeply, honestly, and without fear. When you bring all four questions together, what do they fear losing? What makes them angry? How do they treat those who cannot benefit them? And what does what I see in them reveal about me? You arrive at the full art of reading minds as Carl Jung envisioned it. This is no longer about guessing thoughts, predicting behavior, or manipulating outcomes. It is about understanding the hidden layers of human consciousness, connecting with the soul behind the mask, and seeing both others and yourself with clarity and compassion. Each question serves as a lens, peeling back the layers of ego, projection, and unconscious patterns to reveal what truly drives behavior. Fear, anger, and kindness, when observed carefully, are not just traits, they are messages from the unconscious. And the final question reminds us that everything we observe in others is a reflection, a mirror of our own inner world. This principle changes the way we relate to every person we meet. Interactions that once caused stress, irritation, or confusion now become opportunities for growth, learning, and understanding. We begin to notice the subtle ways our own mind reacts to others, how old fears, unhealed wounds, and suppressed desires shape our perception of the world. Reading minds in this way is not about control. It is about awareness. It teaches patience, empathy, and the quiet skill of observing without immediate judgment or reaction. Over time, this practice transforms relationships. Conflicts become clearer, communication becomes more compassionate, and connections deepen because you are no longer responding to the mask someone wears. You are responding to the truth of their human experience. And perhaps most importantly, you learn to treat yourself with the same compassion. When you see fear, anger, or ego-driven behavior in others, you recognize the reflections of your own humanity, your own vulnerabilities, and your own journey toward integration. This is what Jung meant by knowing your own darkness. The better you understand your own mind, the more freely you can navigate the minds of others. Not to control or manipulate, but to connect, understand, and awaken. When practiced daily, these questions guide you toward self-awareness, inner freedom, and authentic connection. You begin to see the world as a series of mirrors, each person reflecting some aspect of yourself, each encounter offering a lesson, and each moment providing an opportunity to observe, understand, and grow. Reading minds, then, is not a supernatural skill. It is a human one, available to anyone willing to look carefully, listen deeply, and reflect honestly. By asking these four questions and embracing the mirror principle, you move from reaction to awareness, from judgment to understanding, and from separation to connection. And in that presence, you finally experience the essence of what Jung taught, that to truly see others, you must first see yourself. And in doing so, you touch the humanity that binds us all together.